Hi you guys, it's Amanda Sobey and I have been requested to share my advice on how to do wrapping on a leg with lymphedema, and I wanted to do a quick tutorial as to the supplies and the things that I do that I have been shown over the years to manage and treat this condition. So really quickly I will go through a list of supplies that I'll also put in the comment section so that you guys know what to reference for. It's very important to use a stockinette on your affected limb because we do not want to put anything directly on our skin. So this is just a cotton stockinette. Again, if you have leg lymphedema or even arm lymphedema, this is something that is recommended. I do use these foam bandages as the second layer as they provide a really good compression and they're very soft on your skin. There is also the 20-foot bandages, which I'm sure you guys may or may not know about. And through my own findings and through my own research, I have found it very beneficial to use texture. So I have found kind of this ribbed foaming garment through a medical supply store that I use to give added texture for the lymphedema, and it really does help to diminish and eat away at that fibrosis that may be in your affected limb. So really quickly, I'm going to do a tutorial, like I had said, and I'm going to take the stockinette and I'm going to place it on the limb of choice. Now, I'm kind of special because I like to have everything nice and neat, so I actually use my toes to kind of hold the stockinette so I can get a very smooth, no wrinkles or anything, because I find if there's a wrinkle in my garment, it really hurts. I do not have lymphedema in my toes. If you do have lymphedema in your toes and in your feet, you would use very small gauze or a thinner kind of a tensor to wrap your toes and bind them. But I do not have that problem, so I do not wrap my toes. So for anybody that has swelling in their toes and in their feet, you would add on an extra step. And please ask your therapist that does wrap you, and if you have this at home, do take that necessary precaution. So continuing on, because like I said, I do not have the lymphedema in my toes. I just put the stockinette over. I end up using my homemade textured foam that I place on my leg. And for people who are not as flexible, you will find this challenging. You can modify yourself. I find sometimes when I was pregnant, I would lie on my back because I would get a little bit more flexibility that ways. You can have your leg out to the side. However it is most comfortable for you to get these bandages on, just do what works best and or ask a friend. I know I've asked my kids to help me with their extra hands, but doing this over 17 years, you kind of get really creative. So please feel free to use your imagination if you need help to wrap your leg. So now that I've placed the textured foam on my garment, I am going to therefore take my foam bandage while answering a phone call. Just kidding. I'm going to take the foam garment and I'm going to start by casing the textured foam over. Now I start in an awkward position. I start a little bit higher, and then I'm going to wrap the foot going under the heel. And you do not want to make this super tight, because if you go way too tight, you're going to have a lot of pain and discomfort. The thing about compression, if compression is too tight, it's going to be extremely painful. And if it's too loose, it's not going to be effective. So this really does come with experience. And I actually take my first garment and I tuck it under so I have a nice, smooth, consistent wrap. And I continue up the leg, going over and under and backing on your previous wrap. So if you've ever had a sprain through athletic injuries or what have you, you will have perfected this technique. And obviously, because we have lymphedema, you are going to get really good at wrapping. And you're going to provide yourself a consistent, even wrap all throughout the leg, going as high up as possible. My stockinette technically is not long enough, so I'm not going to try and put any foam directly on my skin. And this is where my little bit of OCD comes in, where I have to have things nice and neat, where I take the stocking and I untangle it and I go over it. And again, you're taking the tensor bandage now, going over top of the foam, starting at the bottom, working all your way through up, going under the heel, through the ankle, under the calf, and I apologize. apologize if I'm going a little bit too fast, but again, it's been years of experience. I can do this with my eyes closed in the dark, creating a very consistent, even wrap, going over, and I just tuck it in. And again, this is the final bandage. Sometimes if it's too tight with two, you can just leave one. I know there has been days where if it's really humid outside, or if I've had a really bad diet and I have a lot of swelling, I may only use one tensor, but generally it is requested that you do use two, but sometimes more is not always better. And quickly finishing off, I will go over and back. And my best tip that I have is duct tape. This is good for furniture. This is good for clothing. This is good for red, green. And it's also good for us. So I just use a simple roll of duct tape, going over, taping it. And if you are going to be walking, by the way, a very good tip is to take a piece of tape and adhere it to the underneath side of your foot. This will prevent your tensors from unraveling, because I find with walking, you will have it unravel, and of course after all that work, it's a really big waste to have it starting to unravel at the very bottom when clearly you don't want all that hard work to be, untangled. So those are my tips. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask or comment below. But I hope you found this informative, and good luck wrapping. And I said I will also post all the supplies underneath so that if anybody needs to get accessibility to these, you will know what you're looking for. Thank you so much for your comments and your questions and for chiming in, and stay tuned for my next videos. You have a great day. See you later. Goodbye.